A skilled Roy can beat any fox. It's the mantra of low-tier heroes around the world, one of the mainstays of Melee Hell, and the unfulfilled prophecy of Super Smash Bros. Melee. This short shitpost of a saying comes from the idea that a skilled player can beat any top-tier character, even if the player happens to be playing Roy, one of the worst characters in the game, and the opponent happens to be playing Fox, the best character in the game. The statement is less a measure of the character's relative power and strength in the meta, and more about who's piloting the character, and of course, it's a bit of a blanket statement. But whether or not you actually believe Roy to be the chosen one, this long, unfulfilled prophecy has finally been, well, fulfilled. Under the tag Don't Test Me, Zain, the number 6 player on 2019's MPGR Top 100 rankings, used Roy to win Super Smash Bros. Melee singles at homemadewaffle's online tournament, Rona Rumble 3 East Coast. Leffen may be saying that Marth Fox is 60-40, but in all honesty, Roy may be the swordsman we should be worried about.
What?
With the current circumstances in the world, a number of Melee players have moved to online tournaments to be able to scratch that competitive itch, and along with these online tournaments has come the onset of Smurfs. Enter Don't Test Me. Now, exactly how Zain came to this alternate tag, it seems he used it for an online event run by Ginger titled Ginger's Shit Show, a Smurf-only netplay train wreck. Aside from this being a completely hilarious event, Zain ran through this tournament, outplacing a number of big names like FaZe Dark Naruto 69, Burger King Piccolo, and even LeBron James. One of the bigger questions people have when it comes to can X character win a tournament is in figuring out what advantages or disadvantages that character brings to the table. Now, discussing the implications of LAN versus online tournaments is a video for another day, but I do think Hug summarizes a lot of it pretty well on his video by saying these two types of competitions can test different skill sets. That aside, I think the short answer for if Roy is capable of winning a tournament, whether it be on LAN or online, would probably boil down to incredible bracket luck and incredible player ability. If the few major tournaments we were able to experience in 2020 were any indication, we can say pretty confidently that Zain is an incredible player, easily top 5 if not higher after that Genesis 7 win. But based on this tournament, bracket luck may not be all that important if we're talking about a really freaking good player like Zain. At Rona Rumble, Don't Test Me beat Tokage, J-Flex, 2Saint, KJH, Bobby Big Balls, and Ginger on his run to first place. Tokage is the 4th ranked player on the Montreal Melee Power Rankings, J-Flex is 4th on the New Jersey Melee Power Rankings, and 2Saint, KJH, Bobby, and Ginger are globally ranked 35th, 29th, 80th, and 21st. I mean, hell, in his top 8 bracket alone, Zain's Roy faced down some of the best Fox, Jigglypuff, and Falco players in the world. So I think it's pretty safe to say that he didn't run into any particularly favorable matchups that could prompt a discussion on bracket luck. The issue with Roy in the competitive scene versus his higher tier counterpart is often found in how many more neutral interactions he needs to win in order to take a stock, or even be considered a functional character at that point. Against Spaceys and Fast Fallers, this isn't as much of an issue, but it becomes especially apparent in more floaty matchups like Jigglypuff, where we'll see shit like this happen on a regular basis.
Look, perfect pivots, perfect. What? What? Look at that sword. It is inside his body. Oh my god. That is so bad. That's the worst thing I've ever seen. He's bottom 3 in the game.
Hungrybox sums this up in his video on Zain's run and says that there was a sequence in the grand final set versus Ginger where Zain won neutral 9 times in a row just to equalize the percent that Ginger accumulated from a single opening. Now, I don't know the exact sequence he's referring to, but I honestly think I could throw just about any Roy clip from that tournament here since it would show almost the exact same issue. Roy exists in a very punish-heavy game where long drawn-out combos can often result in lost stocks. But his changes from Marth alters the character so much that Roy has become more defined as a character so heavily dependent on neutral, but with almost zero notable strengths in neutral to capitalize on that playstyle. Neutral is already a complex concept as it is, but playing Roy can just make those interactions that much more difficult to win out on. Low tier characters like Roy tend to be construed as bad because they either lack suitable options for a specific situation, or the options they do have are simply not as good as the options available to a higher tier character. We can see this prominently right here in this short movement sequence versus KJH and Winter Semis. Can we just take a second to appreciate how freaking amazing this is? Zain starts out by edge canceling a down air into a forward air, which forces KJH into a tech, and he then proceeds to wave dash all over KJH's shield without even throwing out a single hitbox. Playing it back, Zain dashes towards KJH, which looks to threaten the F smash on a missed tech or tech in place. And for the record, that sweet spot forward smash would most probably kill here. Among the laundry list of differences between Marth and Roy, one of Roy's biggest kill options comes from a sweet spot F smash, but his sweet spot is around the hilt of his sword, while Marth's is near the tip of his sword. So with that being said, a strong forward smash around the same stage positioning with no DI is a guaranteed kill on Fox at a disgusting 75%. With KJH teching in, Zain wave dashes backwards with his back to KJH's shield, dashes forward slightly, and wave dashes back again, this time through KJH. Zain then dashes to the right, wave dashes into KJH again, and performs another left dash with a wave dash back to culminate in KJH rolling away. That's right, all of that movement and KJH just rolled away. What's crazy about this entire sequence is that it captures everything and nothing at the same time. Almost nothing actually resulted from the interaction, but Zain was still able to exert such immense pressure without doing all that much. We touched on this in an earlier episode on Mango's Big House 9 run, but this goes into an idea of pressuring an opponent's available space without actually moving his character there. Of course, with Falco, this works a bit more nicely since you have access to lasers, but in this case, Zain is consistently staying in Roy's threat range, which is apparently right on top of your opponent, but he's weaving in and out so effortlessly that it applies a ton of additional pressure without either being in range to get a hit or actually committing to a hit. And that's not all one-sided either. Big props to KJH for having an insane amount of patience throughout that short mind game. The funny part about watching this sequence back though is in how little of a threat a hit here would actually pose. Again, keep in mind that Zain is playing Roy, a character notorious for having very few reliable KO moves outside of his forward smash. So unless Zain were to commit to a forward smash, it's not likely he finds the kill off of this movement. Sure, some of his aerials would probably convert into the F smash at this percent, but all of those things require a pretty hard read on where KJH is gonna be, since he has to get so freaking close for his moves to do anything at all. But I think the satisfaction of playing a low tier really does shine through in situations like these where you're able to confidently say, yeah, I got that punish because I won neutral. A lot. And speaking of just straight up winning out on small exchanges, these other sequences versus KJH and later Ginger are perfect examples of how much extra work Roy has to do in order to close out a stock. In this first one, we see the punish on KJH's Fox looks largely the same as a chain grab from Marth, only it's just kinda worse. If Zain were on Marth, we typically see this FD chain grab on a fast faller just result in a lost stock for KJH. But Zain's Roy has to do so much more just to finally find the stock off of the third hit of Double Edge Dance, almost a full 30 seconds after getting the first grab. On the flip side, let's take a look at these two more successful looking edge guards, one versus KJH just a few seconds after the FD chain grab, and one versus Ginger in Grand Finals. Again, the way Zain finds these openings looks very similar to how he'd find them on Marth, but he needs to approach a few situations a bit differently while on Roy. Versus KJH, he finds the grab the same way a Marth would and throws the Fox off stage, which ultimately leads to a second grab into sweet spot F smash. Now at this point, a Marth would need to pull off one, maybe two more execution tests to secure the stock. But this is Roy we're talking about, so he has to read the illusion back to stage and catch it with a short hop into Flare Blade, wait out the Firefox from below ledge, and secure the stock with a down tilt into a second forward smash. It's a bit of an expansion on the usual edgeguard where, in Marth's case, just the down tilt probably would have done it, but Zain makes it work here. The sequence on Ginger is a little more intricate. It starts off similar to the edgeguard on KJH, Zain throws Ginger off stage and Zain reads the side B recovery, but this time catches it with a jab instead of a neutral B. He drops down and catches the Firebird with the first hit of side B, then clips Ginger with his up B, which forces a second Firebird from Ginger. Zain finally wraps up the stock with a back air from ledge, which pushes Ginger far enough out for Zain to get the edge hog. This second edgeguard on Ginger looks a lot like Zain's Marth edgeguard on Mango at Genesis 7, especially when it comes to the use of side B to reset a space animal's recovery and force them into restarting their up B at a lower position. The difference here is that Roy often has to do the extra stuff out of necessity, but whether it's on Marth or Roy, that hit alone can be enough to take the stock if their opponent recovers incredibly low, and it also just sets up for a ton in terms of follow-ups. Now, if we're talking about the set versus 2 Saint, that's a totally different story, and it's one that I probably won't get too in-depth on in the interest of time. TLDR, the flowcharts for Marth and Roy can look awfully similar, but Roy sometimes has to take a few detours in order to get to the same end result. And in the case of the Jigglypuff matchup, a little more than a few detours. Zain's Roy is a perfect example of how far solid fundamentals can take you despite the character you play. And the saying, "you can't teach an old dog new tricks," immediately came to mind when I found out about this crazy win. So much of what we see in the tier lists are perceived as law. If a character is bottom tier, it means they're useless with absolutely no potential. And if a character is Captain Falcon and you're hacks, they're also useless with absolutely no potential. Now, naturally that's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but it's kinda true to some extent. Many iterations of the Melee tier list had characters like Pikachu, Yoshi, Dr. Mario, and Luigi left in the dust, only to be picked up and taken to new heights by a select few. I don't think this accomplishment should be diminished by the fact that Rona Rumble was an online event. I don't think anyone is saying Zain is incapable of pulling off a similar feat with Roy at an offline event, and I don't think anyone would be opposed to seeing the Roy again in any tournament setting. The one thing I can say for sure though is that this wave of online tournaments has brought about a ton of interesting developments in what some would consider to be an aging meta. If players like Axe and Amsa haven't been enough proof for you, seeing Zain's Roy should be a reminder that any character can go the distance in the hands of an expert. So to the tier list purists clinging to their S and A tier characters, who says you can't teach an old dog some new tricks? Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and if you haven't already caught the VODs from Rona Rumble 3, you should definitely go watch Zain's Roy in action because it was freaking awesome. And on a similar note, big shoutouts to people like HMW and Save as Untitled for putting on so many of these online events. You guys are carrying the Melee community, and it's giving us a ton of fun and exciting Melee to watch in these crazy times. This show and channel are supported by Patreon, which is the best way to directly support the channel and to help produce these episodes more regularly. If you'd like to help make more videos like these possible, please check the link in the description. I'm definitely looking forward to pushing out even more stuff for you all, and I just wanted to say thanks since we're almost at 15,000 subscribers, which is completely insane. If you want to hear more updates on any of this upcoming content, be sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Until then, I'm turndownforwalt. Thanks again for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.